Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to this week's Midweek 180, brought to you from Hakone in Japan. I am doing a bit of jet setting at the moment. I was in Abu Dhabi last week for the Midweek 180, and now I am in Japan, both with Nissan actually. I wanted to give a shout out to last week. My video that dropped last week about the launch of the Nissan Patrol has done amazingly well, way better than I expected it to. And interestingly, even though the Patrol isn't coming to the UK, over 50% of the views of that video come from outside of the UK, which isn't a surprise really, because that's where my audience is. So it's great to know that I've got a loyal following outside of the UK, as well as my amazing peddlers in the UK. But I'm here in Japan for the first press drives of the Nissan Ariya Nismo, but more on that in a little while. Before we get cracking on the video, let's do some housekeeping. If you've not seen one of these before, this is my Midweek 180 where I bring you my update about news, views and information on upcoming reviews, all filmed in one take. Let's do the housekeeping from last week and then we'll get cracking into the guts of what we're going to talk about this week. So leader of the pack last week was Christopher James. Well done, mate. I think that might be your first leader of the pack, but you were joined in the Magnificent Seven by Stephen Spink, Francois G, Malcolm Brew, Leanne Jackson, Paul Mead, and Michael Kember. So whoever puts the first comment this week, you'll be my leader of the pack next week, and the first 7 comments will be in my Magnificent Seven. Now, I would have loved to have filmed this video outside because I've been in Yokohama most of today, and then we've driven outside about an hour and a half away from Yokohama into Hakone, out into the hills and the mountains where we've got visibility of Mount Fuji tomorrow, an amazing setting for the drives that we're going to do tomorrow. But sadly, we arrived here just as it was getting dark, and it's a very, very busy schedule. So at the moment, in Japan time, it's about 10:30 in the evening, although in the UK, it's only, hold on, it'll be 11 o'clock in the evening. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK. Anyway, the first thing I want to talk about is Formula One. Now, we haven't had a race last week, but I think almost as anticipated as the various driver moves that have happened this season, the big piece in the car designer jigsaw puzzle happened this weekend, or last weekend. Finally, it's been announced that Adrian Newey, the genius that has designed more winning Formula One cars than anyone in history, has signed for Aston Martin. Now, it's a surprise to me. I honestly thought he would be tempted to Maranello to design cars for Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton. But then the more I asked around, and the more I know a few people that I kind of know Adrian and sort of know what he's doing, and the likelihood of him moving outside of the UK seemed less and less and less. And clearly, Lawrence Stroll has a very big wallet, because Adrian Newey is being paid £30 million a year plus bonuses to design Aston Martin's next race car. And I would love to know your thoughts on the subject. He's clearly amazing at what he does. And interestingly, I was actually at the Revival Drivers' Ball on Saturday and saw Adrian walk in, and it was just before the announcement was made. But I think most people knew at that time that the deal had been done. And for someone who just basically signed a £30 million a year contract, he looked quite happy, to be fair. But then he was driving at Revival, driving in a TT with his son. Amazing to see. But yeah, my thoughts, I think it will be great to see what happens at Aston Martin. I think it's more than just the designer of the car that's required to make a championship-winning car. I think we've seen that at Red Bull. You know, they've got an Adrian Newey designed car, but things aren't going well. And yet we look at McLaren or Mercedes, they don't have an Adrian Newey designing their car, but they're doing really, really well. So I think it will just spice things up a great deal. I think it's the thing that was really needed for Aston Martin to kind of stay in the sport. I think Lawrence Stroll's train set just got a whole bunch more exciting. I honestly think he needs to take a brave pill and get a decent driver in the number 2 seat alongside Fernando Alonso, because he might not like to hear people say it, but I just don't think that Lance Stroll is fast enough, basically. But that's just my opinion. Again, put it in the comments below what you think. Next thing I want to briefly talk about is the Drive Talk podcast. The latest episode of that went live on Friday. We're now uploading episodes at 5 o'clock on a Friday. We're still only able to do them every 2 weeks, and the simple reason for that is just logistics. Is getting me, Pat, and Joe together, physically together, is incredibly difficult. We managed to record a couple of episodes last week at Podium Place, one of which went up on Friday. Now I'm away here in Japan this week, then Joe goes away to Spain for 2 or 3 weeks where we can't get together. It's quite tricky to get us together. But the last episode was about our dream 2-car garage. We had 4 price points: £25,000, £50,000, £100,000 and £150,000. The episode's doing really, really well. We've just hit 7,000 subscribers on YouTube. But any of you that watches this content and has subscribed, I've had a big growth in subscribers recently. Please have a look at the Drive Talk podcast. I'll put a link in the pinned comment and description below. Just search Drive Talk podcast and you'll find it. But we're really proud of what we do on DTP, and we've got some really cool plans for the rest of the year. Now, Monday's video was a really interesting one. It's one I've been researching for a while. It's a classic example of a video that I shot in one take in 20 minutes at home the day I flew to Japan, actually. And so far, it is doing absolute gangbusters. It's not been live 24 hours as I record this, and it's already smashing numbers in terms of performing videos. But the really interesting thing, it's about the brands, the car brands that I think are going to struggle with the ZEV mandate. But on the whole, the feedback in the comments is very supportive. I had a feeling I would probably get quite a lot of flack for the video, but it just shows that I'm doing my research. I'm having a read. I'm trying to take a balanced view of things, and that's certainly the case for that video. Now, why am I here in Japan? Well, ultimately, I'm here. Tomorrow, we drive the new Ariya Nismo. Now, I had an Ariya as a Hendy Group long-termer last year for a couple of months, and it's a battery electric platform that it was an impressive car, but I had the 2-wheel drive, lower power version. It certainly wasn't a sporty car to drive, but it was an impressive family car. It was comfortable and smooth and quiet and spacious, but it's had the Nismo treatment. So we're here in Japan to get a real deep dive into the world of Nismo, and we've spent today with the Nismo team. So this morning we had a whole bunch of technical briefings with various senior members of the Nismo team, understanding the history of Nismo. Nismo's 40 years old this year. There's a big celebration at the back end of this year. Just to understand, really, I think it's a brand that's been actively pushed in Japan longer than it has done in the UK. For us in the UK, I think the first car that has had really open Nismo branding was the Duke. But we had our briefing on Nismo, and then this afternoon we've driven some amazing Nismo cars. I drove the Aura Nismo, which is interestingly a car we don't get in the UK, a hybrid drivetrain, really cool little car actually. I liked it a lot. I then drove a Nismo Z, or as they say over here, Nismo Z, and that's such a frustrating car because it's a V6 turbocharged performance car in excess of 400 horsepower, rear wheel drive, just phenomenal car. And guess what? We don't get that one either. And I've been trying really hard to lobby the guys here at Nismo and Nissan to bring the Nissan Nismo Z to the UK, because I think they'd sell loads of them. It's an emissions issue, apparently. It's just that the emissions and the noise regulations we have in Europe mean that it's just not a car that they can easily bring to our market, which is a great shame. And then finished off the day driving the Nismo GTR, and I drove one of those back in March. But we drove each of the cars to the iconic Daikoku car park, and even though we were there during the middle of the day and it's very hot at the moment here in Japan, there were still loads of car guys just hanging around at Daikoku. Really, you need to go to Daikoku on Friday, Saturday or Sunday night to get the true vibe, but it was still very special. So tomorrow, as I said, we're here at a place called Hakone, which is about an hour and a half outside of Yokohama. And there's a turnpike, a really cool set of roads. We've got two different road routes tomorrow, one round a lake and another one on the turnpike. And hopefully we'll really get to put Adrian Newey to the test, because that is a car that's coming to the UK. So they've basically taken an Aria and they've given it the Nismo treatment. I can't tell you too much at the moment, but the video on Friday will tell you everything. I cannot wait to drive that car. I did have a hot lap in an Aria Nismo at the Formula E at the beginning of the year, and it impressed me a great deal, but tomorrow I finally get to drive the car. So that's why I'm here in Japan. So you need to tune in on Friday at 6 for that one. But if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I will join you on the next film, which is this Friday at 6 p.m. for the Nissan Aria Nismo first drives. Now, sometimes I use the word exclusive. There are a very small number of journalists here for this event. I think there are 12 from the European markets, and there are only 2 of us from the UK. And I'm the only YouTuber from the UK. So if you want to know about Aria Nismo, you've got to tune in to Petrol Ped, and that's very, very exciting. But I'm going to try and edit this video and upload it so it can go live tomorrow, because it's Tuesday night here in Japan, but we're 7 hours ahead of you, so I've got a bit of time to do the uploading thing. But yeah, all should be good. Anyway, you take care, guys. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed that one. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film this Friday, 6 o'clock, Aria Nismo from Japan. Hopefully, it'll be a good one. Haven't edited it yet, but it'll be all right.